Welcome to this episode of On Scene with RCSO. I am your host, Lieutenant Kimberly Lee.
I'm your host, Lateisha Mosquera.
And today's episode, we will be talking about the homeless issue. We will have Captain Redmon with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office and Corporal Rhodes with the Marshal's Office. But before we do that, of course, we always do the zone report. And we started off with the 9 p.m. routine. Reminding you to, at 9 o'clock or around 9 o'clock, make sure you're locking your doors, you are taking valuables out of your cars or you're hiding them, you're putting your keys away from your car vehicles because that makes it really easy sometimes, but some vehicles to drive those away. And also we want you to, if you have an alarm in your home, activate that alarm.
Also, on our last episode, we talked about school safety in our school edition. Some of the things that we want to touch on, as you know, we recently had a school shooting at T.W. Josie, and as Dr. Bradshaw, the superintendent of schools, had stated, we need to be making sure that we're checking with our students when they arrive home from school and when they're leaving, making sure what they have in their book bag, what's going on during that school day, and what they may be bringing home from school as well as taking into the schools. Also, we want to bring to your attention, we are requesting the public's assistance in regards to the murder of Zaire Pearson, one of the 16-year-old juveniles that was murdered back on April the 6th during spring break on Old McDuffie Road. If you have any information in regards to this murder, please reach out to our Richmond County Sheriff's Office investigation team or to our dispatch center.
As always, if you have any suggestions about future shows or if you have any questions for us, you can put those on the Facebook page or you can comment on this YouTube channel in the comment section, or you can email community services and that link will be provided to you so you can send us those questions or suggestions. And remember, the first 5 comments for the sheriff's interview will get a free bobblehead. So don't forget about that bobblehead giveaway. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Corporal Shawn Rhodes with Richmond County Marshal's Office, along with Captain Scott Redmon with Richmond County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Today we'll be talking about the homeless community and some of the initiatives that we have in place as a county, along with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office and some of our current initiatives that we've started. Corporal Rhodes, if you'll tell us a little bit about your work in the community.
Absolutely. Of course, we always enjoy working with the Sheriff's Office, and we do a lot of that. Where this initiative derives from is Chronic Nuisance Enforcement Team. What that is when we have serious issues in the community that deal with bad communities, bad houses, junk cars, graffiti, trash, when all that stuff comes together. Where there's crime, there's crime. Or where there's crime, I'm sorry.
Right.
I know it's a little cliche, but basically the numbers will show and support that. Well, since we've had this influx of the homeless population, that's kind of taken over our CNET operation. And again, we do that along with the Sheriff's Office and any other department or agency or central private partner that can assist us with bringing that issue into compliance or at least manageable. The homeless population has really just grown on us very rapidly.
What do you think attributes to the homeless community coming into Augusta, or the reason why we've seen that influx as of lately?
I think where it started, the heaviest influx is when we had the hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And we were busing the people here for shelter. And I think that we didn't get them all bused back. And we have since helped connected some of those individuals from Chatham County back to their support system by bus. Right. And a lot of them just stayed. Maybe they met some friends. I'm not sure what happened, but they stayed and they were homeless. Then it just started happening, and then we were hearing allegations of other jurisdictions bringing homeless individuals here to help manage their numbers. We were never able to validate that. It started before we had the flock cameras, so we weren't able to go that route and check, but we started getting times and descriptions after the flock cameras were installed, and we still weren't able to validate any of that. Probably 80% of the individuals that we engage with are from here.
Okay.
They're homeless people that we've always dealt with or lived here, got evicted, couldn't get back on their feet.
Okay.
Then and it was pretty concentrated to downtown for the most part for many years. And I mean, there was a time where we could go through and we knew who every homeless person was. I mean, road patrol, I mean, they were just the same people over and over again. But when COVID hit, the federal government gave monies to house some of the homeless population in hotel motels. So they were housed down on Washington Road, Wrightsboro Road area. And so I think that some of those people stayed there. So we've had a higher population there. But we now see them heavily populated in South Augusta. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to just engage and find out who they are, what we're dealing with, and maintain that data.
Now, I know, I think is it once a year, every so often that we get together and we do a count and try to identify the homeless and where they are and try to get them resources and things like that. Where are you, I know that, like you said, they used to be just downtown, and now they're all over the county. Homeless camps is something that I didn't even think of until I started working here, and kind of talking to you and some training classes and things like that. What are some of the issues and the problems with the homeless in these homeless camps? Why can't we just leave them alone and let them populate where they populate and do whatever they do?
So of course, I know that because we are compassionate, all of us, and the sheriff and the marshal both are adamant about that, for us to try to find resources and handle it. Of course, we can't put them all in the jail.
Right.
One thing, and this is, near and dear to my heart, and he'll tell you, is the individuals that we run into that are mentally ill. Some of these people do not have the mental capacity to tell you their date of birth. And we're able to verify this because since we've started this, we've learned to connect to different groups and organizations and state agencies that can help us identify via history or on-site visits just the history of that individual, so it's not like they're faking
Right.
this because we're the police and we showed up. Those are the ones that we definitely need to pay closer attention to, and we do, to try to get them the resources that they need. A lot of laws have changed. We work and deal and communicate with our state legislators on this because it's very dangerous for us as law enforcement officers to approach these individuals that are mentally ill. They, maybe they don't understand. We don't know that. We it's hard for us to identify that immediately. So it brings a lot of harm. Some of these people have extensive criminal histories, living in the woods in a backyard, or next to a school.
Right.
We don't know who these people are living this close to our children and our residents and in our community.
And I tell you, Kim, a lot of it is about just human compassion.
Right.
I mean, they're in deplorable conditions a lot of times, during the winter time. They don't have adequate resources to take care of their needs. Summertime, the heat that we have right now, heat indexes are, triple digit. I mean, it's serious. I mean, a lot of people can succumb to just medical issues just from the conditions they're living in to begin with. And as Shawn said, that, 1 in 5 homeless people, on average, are, dealing with mental health issues. Then you have another high percentage of these people that are addicted to some sort of substance. So just turning a blind eye and ignoring, what you're seeing out there at these homeless camps, it's not addressing the problem that they have, that they can't help themselves, honestly.
Or they don't know.
They don't know. They don't know what's available to them. So it's going to take a collaborative effort, the marshal's office, the sheriff's office, nonprofit organizations, other government entities, like the Veterans Administration, because you have a lot of veterans that are out there that are homeless. And, a lot of times they're there initially to no fault of their own. But, this type of living circumstance kind of perpetuates other things to happen. It oftentimes leads to crime. And if we don't address it, it can lead to crimes that we do have to address on the law enforcement side. So what really is kind of a non-criminal issue to begin with often revolves into that. And arresting our way out of this is not the answer. It's getting them connected to the appropriate resources that are out there and letting them know that this is how they can get specific help for whatever their needs are. And it's just getting everybody to the same table and talking and having a common goal, which is to help these people in whatever sense that they can help.
And one thing that we know, sometimes people just sit at the table and talk about it. This is the issue. This is what we have. What are we doing about the issue? Are we finding those resources in the communities, and have there been some successes in what we are trying to do to help this population?
Go ahead.
So I'll go ahead and tell you that when we started this, the task force was still under the sheriff. It was before it was moved under the commission, and Chief Clayton was very adamant about the data. Right. We tried several times to receive shared data from different departments, agencies, federal government, what have you. We're not very successful. So, and we understand, we don't like sharing our data either, right? We all have access to mobile. But, we're not going to be able to give some of those nonprofits access to that stuff. Right. So, we built a database, Sheriff's Office and the Marshal's Office together, met with IT, and we built a complete database. We receive the information, it is protected for civilians, to view. FI cards, homeless arrest, homeless incarceration, all of those things. Yes. Which you're aware of all this. Yes. And we're able to view our engagement information. So we go out once a month, Sheriff's Office and the Marshal's Office and nonprofits and volunteers, and we engage with individuals. We may do 10, depends on what we come across. We've done 25 in one day. And instead of doing that once a year for the federal monies, for the point in time count, we decided it was best because we have to know what we're dealing with.
Right.
Right? So now we've incorporated other complaint systems and notification systems and that, like 311. We're encouraging people to contact 311 if you see homeless activity, if you see an encampment, if you see panhandling. That information goes over in that database that we all use and share, keeps up with those numbers. It can give us annual graphs and percentages from area to area. It can show me, so I have a homeless guy that moves all over the place. I'm convinced I'm going to continue to aggravate him until he either gets services or he just finds somewhere else to go. But he has moved all over the county. He's been everywhere, and I'm able to see that. Encampments, that's a big thing with us, clean and safe, right? We engage. If it's private property, we make contact with the property owner, and we tell them, you can't allow this to happen on your property. It's negatively impacting the quality of life for the surrounding residents. So, if it's public property, then we make contact with engineering or environmental services. Have them go out and clean it up.
Right.
We let them get their belongings. And again, the entire time we are doing everything we can to connect them to resources, regardless of what their situation is. We've gotten people jobs. We have handheld individuals to Serenity to receive the mental, help they need. I could tell you, I could sit here all day for the rest of the day until 5 o'clock and tell you success stories that have been done with us and our partners by hand holding. Focused case management. What does this one person need? We quickly found out that the resources are spread out everywhere, so we developed something with Salvation Army called C2C and its connection to community. We bring the community the resources
To them.
to the Salvation Army once a month, every last Friday of the month for 2 hours. We have Department of Corrections there. We've developed a, I can't remember what we're calling it, where they're going to reconsider misdemeanor and state warrants through the judges. So we actually give the form out to the individual in need, send it over to them. They look at it, consider it, and try to come up with something that would help them find themselves out of that situation. So they do qualify for resources, because if certain things will stop you from getting help. Certain charges, certain probation violations, or of course warrants. You know, you're not even considered for resources and assistance if you have warrants.
So do you see that with all the resources that we offer the homeless community, are you seeing, I know you said about 80% of them are home-based, they're really from Augusta. I know there's been some speculation in regards to a lot of these individuals are transient. They've been brought in here because of those resources. Do you think that some individuals are coming to the CSRA or coming to the Richmond County area because of the resources that we have, and are they taking advantage of those resources?
Well, I will say this, and I'll let you follow up.
No, you're fine. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's been stated before that we're kind of a mecca of resources, Augusta. I mean, we're recognized as being one of the fourth most capable offerers of services per capita in the country. So the resources are here. So people are going to actually gravitate towards that, you know, quite naturally.
Right.
Other towns throughout the state hear about this through networking or whatever means. They bring people here because we have so many resources available. And, you know, the homeless people are going to connect themselves as best they can to some of these areas where we find them concentrated. I mean, they're looking for goods. They're looking for their needs to be met. As Shawn said earlier, it used to be downtown. It was on Gordon Highway for a long time, but Gordon Highway in Augusta, if you've ridden that area recently, you know, it's a lot of businesses shut down. There's not a lot there, so that's moved things out. Washington Road is a corridor right there close to I-20. A lot of out-of-town people will come in, they'll drop them off. Again, the hurricanes, we know this has happened. It's been witnessed and seen where people have reported to us, a white van will pull up and 15 people will get out, and they just drop them off and leave because they know that they will be taken care of in the city of Augusta. So they're going to go where the resources are available. And the problem is we have to connect them appropriately, not just to live on the streets, but just get them into like the C2C, monthly events where we can actually see what their needs are, and get them connected with case managers and substance abuse and mental health people. All those resources are there to help them out and kind of move them from where they are currently if they want to. And that's another problem. That a lot of homeless people that we encounter don't want the help. They're there because they want to be there. Some do, but I think probably there's a high percentage that just are satisfied being homeless.
And we don't get the engagement that we desire with those individuals either. So
are you seeing
really
that it turns into the crime that we have from those homeless individuals that aren't receptive to the help?
Absolutely. I think there's a direct correlation to that. If they don't want the help, they're comfortable staying in that environment. They're self-supporting, however that may be. If they're shoplifting or breaking into cars or robbing people, they do what's necessary to sustain their lifestyle that they've chosen for themselves.
And what we have found with that is when these individuals were moved down. So it used to be in Augusta, Richmond County, you could eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner for free downtown, and you would not go hungry. Mm-hmm. Well, since they have migrated down to Washington Road, to Wrightsboro Road, we don't have those services there. So that's when they start breaking into cars. Okay. They, start camping in in the woods behind these, neighborhoods. Sheds start getting broken into, and it just continues to grow from there. It's people come and they are told. So we always have people coming asking for hotel motel vouchers because we did do that, which if we could go back, I would have, probably recommended that we not do that, but that we had to do something quick with COVID, right?
Right.
So we don't offer that. And they quickly want to go back home. And that is probably our success with the busing back. We connect because, the governor signed a bill, it is now against the law, to transport homeless individuals from jurisdiction to jurisdiction without case management or the need for some type of medical care.
Okay.
So we've always done that because we don't want to do to other people what they've done to us.
Right.
So we'll case manage and make contact with mom or whatever the case may be and say, hey, you okay? We're sending him back. He's ready.
And a perfect scenario would be to engage with someone that's homeless, make some contact with their support network. If they're from out of town, let's get them back to where their support network is, to their families, and permanent support of housing. That's what they need. It's not tents, it's not camp or tent cities or home encampments. It's just trying to get these people, and it's hard. I mean, and you're not going to do this overnight. And I think, those who have more experience than I will tell you that, you have to have multiple engagements with somebody, typically on average from what I'm hearing and reading and understanding just from being involved with this, 10 to 15 actual engagements with a single individual before they will allow you to do something for them, to where they trust you enough to that it's not just a law enforcement, because we're coming in as law enforcement. That's what they see more times than not.
But we have to.
You have to, and they have to learn to trust that you're there to help them and not hurt them or not arrest them. So there's a challenge from the very beginning. And once you break these barriers down and start finding out a little bit about them and try to reconnect or reunify them with their families, those are where your success stories start to come through.
What do we say to the community? I know a lot of times we hear the negative from the community, especially from property owners, such as when we had our homeless meeting at Warren Road recently. We had a lot of passionate homeowners that had issues with the homeless community there. What do we do to show them that we hear them, but also that we need people to come in and be a part of the change or assist us with, embracing, yes, we have homeless people in our community, but we need to get them the resources that we need. What can we tell the community or property owners?
To help. Number one, report. So we went to a meeting the other night, had very little reports on this one particular area that they were discussing. If we don't know what they're dealing with, we can't help them. We have to be aware of what they have. So if it's homeless activity that they see or even suspect, it doesn't matter. I see a lot of litter at the edge of the woods. We'll clean it up, and the next day it's there again. Well, that is a telltale sign that there's a homeless camp out there.
Right.
Okay. Send it to 311. Let us go check it. The homeless complaints come to the sheriff's office first, but then after the deputies look at it and don't find the individual, and there's some litter issues or trash issues from an encampment, or they're starting an encampment, we'll make sure that gets cleaned up. We work together on this.
Right.
We have to. But we need help. And the Salvation Army has started a fund for us, for the bus, to get people back to their families. So if anybody wanted to look into that and help us with that, that would be great too.
And one of the things that you did say, what are some of the things that we need to look for in our neighborhoods? You talked about litter, but is there anything else that we need to look at to say, well, this may be a homeless camp, or this may be, because we might not recognize it.
Right.
But
really
you look and you would, because you work, this
Right.
is what you do. So apart from like the litter, what else can we look for to say we may have a problem here?
So early in the mornings, if you see anybody leaving with a backpack, you see somebody walking down the road with a backpack, that's very common. You see a bike pushed in a wood line, parked outside of a wood line. Polar Pops. Every homeless encampment we go to, there are thousands of Polar Pop cups for whatever reason. That is something that we've noticed. And people have called us and said, there's always Polar Pop, or the big styrofoam white cups. And sure enough, you go over there and Maybe they use them to refill them. I don't know. Styrofoam boxes. There's another, telltale sign. But they'll eat and just drop it and go in their encampment. So just look for that. People just wandering around at different times or just hanging out like they really have nowhere to go. When night comes, they usually slip on back in their encampment.
Okay. And one of the questions before we started, I was going to ask Captain Redmon. We get complaints in Internal Affairs Division from homeless individuals that were just maybe at May Park or some of the other parks. They're sitting there. They say they're minding their business. But law enforcement comes and tells them to leave. They can't stay there. They tell them to leave, but they don't have anywhere to go. They're maybe waiting on the shelter to open up. Where can they go if they can't be in the park, or if they can't sit in like public places?
Well, I mean, this may be a hard question to answer, and I'll attempt this. But as long as, if it's a public place, and as long as they're not a nuisance or committing any crime, and they have reasons for being there, I think you have to use a lot of good common sense, when an officer is engaging somebody like that. And it's an opportunity, quite frankly, for them to even engage with that person and find out how they can assist, rather than take the law enforcement, stance right up front, that you're here, what are you doing, this is wrong. Maybe that's not the correct approach that we should take, as long as they're not committed a crime or creating a public nuisance for them or anyone else. So we have to respond to these kind of calls, and honestly, people see it as blight. It's the broken windows theory. They see a problem, they call us, and we're there 24 hours a day. And unfortunately, I would say that homelessness is a problem that's been thrust onto law enforcement, because we are here 24 hours a day, and that's us, the marshal's office, or any other law enforcement body, in this area.
And we don't receive the funding for it.
No, absolutely not. And people, civilians typically just don't call social service agencies or mental health agencies to report this. They call 911 or our non-emergency number and say, y'all need to check this person out. Yeah, 311. And, because law enforcement is there, they send us. And essentially, we have almost been forced to own this problem of homelessness. And I'll be honest with you, we do get training. Our officers get training annually to deal with mental health and substance abuse people. But is it enough, to deal with them, those that have significant issues? Absolutely not. I'll be upfront with you about that. What we need to do is continue to educate and train our officers on how we deal with these kinds of issues, and give them a platform that, or a guideline that they can follow when they actually get out and address these types of situations, and not create a criminal position, when there's not one.
Absolutely. And we've worked with the deputies closely. Like, we just did another sheet to kind of show, because oftentimes I think that the deputies are put in positions where they have to act as case managers. We're trying to get away from that and let the deputies, so the 1013 law changed. It gives the deputies a little more power, puts it back in their hands. So we kind of did a checklist for that. This is what you look for. This is what you do. These are the emergency shelters, because in all reality, the deputy should only be dealing with the emergency situation. The people who are tasked with the follow-up and the case management should be the ones to do that. If we could get them placed in a sheltered environment, that is what we are asked to do. We have to give them an option. Our shelter is very rarely full. So there's your option. If you can't get to it because of some kind of criminal history, the chief has already given us the permission to give him a call, see if there's some things that can be helped to get them the clearance that they need, as long as it's not violent. I mean, everybody is doing everything they can to help this community. All the leaders. I mean, the marshal, he allows us to do whatever needs to be done to help the sheriff's office with this, to help coordinate, provide any information, documentation. And when we're out there, we are one team. We all work with my deputies, y'all's deputies, together. And we have really made a significant difference in how the deputies engage with this population by telling the deputy what they have available, sharing that with them, letting them know what their options are. It builds their confidence with dealing with them, and it's been an amazing process, to be honest with you. We've gone a long way with that.
Well, just like you said, we can go on and on about just this. It has become a hot button issue in the community. We can go on and on until 5 o'clock to talk about it. But we did share some really good information, some things that maybe the people in the community didn't know. Was call 311 if you see encampments or if you have any suspicions or anything like that, so we can get that population connected to some resources. So that was pretty educational. I didn't even know that, and I'm here. So do you have any last words or comments or suggestions before we close out this portion of the show?
I would like to say that what I think the public needs to understand is, at the marshal's office especially, I mean, we're law enforcement, and we have to protect the quality of life for all of our businesses, residents, and visitors. So in order to do that, you have to, sometimes do things that, it's not very comfortable. But those are things that we have to do to make sure that we achieve that goal. So that's what I would like for everybody to understand.
Well, and I'll say from the standpoint of the sheriff's office and Sheriff Roundtree and Chief Deputy Clayton, we hear the public. We understand their concerns, and we're doing everything we can within our legal authority to address this head on, and have been for 7 to 8 years. Just recently, this has become the hot button issue, for our community. Why, I'm not 100% certain, but it has gained a lot of traction, and we're doing the same things that we've been doing for years. Well before we even had the hometown meeting that the sheriff put together himself to address this exact issue. We know it's a serious issue, and we're working tirelessly, weekly, especially Shawn here, to pull these resources together so that we can make a positive connection and have some positive influence and impact on, the streets, of Richmond County and with the homeless, and just create an overall better sense of a better quality of life for citizens and the homeless people, and any effort that we can. I can assure you that's what we're doing.
Okay. And we work good together doing it. I mean, it's great. I mean, it works.
Well, I thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.